Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I welcome you for the morning Bhagavatam class. Today I'm going to discuss 1.16.3. Please pray for me. I'll take all your blessings and pray for something meaningful I could speak on this verse. The verse goes is Aja sarvasva medam strin gangayam bhuri dakshinan सारत्वतं गुरुं कृत्वा देवयत्राक्षिगोचराः अज सर्वस्वमेधां स्त्रीन् गङ्गायां भूरि दक्षिणां सारत्वतं गुरुं कृत्वा देवयत्राक्षिगोचराः. Ajahara performed Aswamedhan horse sacrifices, three, Gangayam, the banks of the Ganges, Bhuri, sufficiently, Dakshinan, rewards, Saradvatam, onto Krupacharya, Gurum, spiritual master, Kritva, having selected, Devaha, the demigods, Yatra, wherein, Akshi, eyes, Gocharaha, within the purview. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit, after having selected Krupacharya for guidance as his spiritual master, performed 3 horse sacrifices on the banks of the Ganges. These were executed with sufficient rewards for the attendants, and at these sacrifices, even common men could see demigods. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It appears from this verse that interplanetary travel by the denizens of higher planets is easy. In many statements in Bhagavatam, we have observed that the demigods from heaven used to visit this earth to attend sacrifices performed by influential kings and emperors. Herein also we find that during the time of the horse sacrifice ceremony of Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods from other planets were visible even to the common man due to the sacrificial ceremony. The demigods are not generally visible to common men, as the Lord is not visible, but as the Lord, by his causeless mercy, descends to be visible to the common man. Similarly, the demigods also become visible to the common man by their own grace. Although celestial beings are not visible to the naked eyes of the inhabitants of this earth, it was due to the influence of Maharaj Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. The kings used to spend lavishly during such sacrifices as cloud distributes rains. A cloud is nothing but another form of water, or in other words, the waters of the earth transform into clouds. Similarly, the charity made by the kings in such sacrifices was but another form of the taxes collected from the citizens. But as the rains fall down very lavishly and appear to be more than necessary, the charity made by such kings also seems to be more than what the citizens need. Satisfied citizens will never organize agitation against the king, and thus there was no need in changing the monarchical state. Even for a king like Maharaja Parikshit, there was need of a spiritual master for guidance. Without such guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master must be a bona fide, and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve real success. I would like to pray before I talk something and discuss about this verse. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shrita Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धु जगत्प्रते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। I would like to recite Bhagavatam prayers. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet sushushu shraddhadanasya vasudeva kataruchi syan mahatsevaya vipra punya kirtirtani shevanat Shunvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridayatastu he Bhadrani Vidunoti Surharta Satam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevya Nityam Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tatasrajastamo Bhava Kamalobhasya Dayache Chetayeter Anapithim Stitim Sattve Prasidati Evam Prasanna Manaso Bhagavad Bhakti Yogatah Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam Mukta Sangasya Jayate Vyadayate Hridaya Grante Schidante Sarva Samsaya Kshiyante Chasya Karmani Drishta Evatmanishvare. I'll share my screen again. So I'll go from down, like explaining the whole, like my realizations and everything. Even for a king like Maharaj Parikshit, there was a need of a spiritual master for guidance. Without such guidance, one cannot make progress in spiritual practice, in spiritual life. The spiritual master must be a bona fide, and one who wants to have self-realization must approach and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master to achieve success. So, what all I could understand through this verse is two things. One is every one of us need to take guidance from a spiritual master for spiritual progress. And the second one is to have darshan of Lord and his pure devotees, we need to qualify ourselves. So in the above verse, the words like Saradatvam Gurum Krutva means after accepting Krupacharya as spiritual master. Parikshit Maharaj was born in a family of pure devotee and was such an exalted devotee that Lord Krishna gave his darshan when he was still when he's still unborn. He was entrusted with the rule of the entire planet after the Pandavas retired to the forest. Despite all his qualifications like his ancestry and his emperorship, Maharaj Parikshit accepted Kripacharya as his spiritual master and ruled the world under the guidance of Gurus and Shastras. Gurus and Shastra and Sadhu. So from his example, we can understand how important is to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and how our material positions and designations do not matter at all. Even Srila Prabhupada beautifully concludes in this purport that we should approach bona fide spiritual master for the real success in spiritual life, in spiritual progress. We can even see in Bhagavad Gita 4.34 Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadeshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. Just to try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge onto you because they have seen the truth. The path Prabhupada very neatly, kindly gave us the translation about this, and he gave us a good glimpse of what and how we can approach the spiritual master. The key points from the purport are like the path of self-realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-realized master is the secret of advancement in spiritual life. Satisfaction of self-realized master is the secret of self-advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination of spiritual understanding. Not only should one hear submissively from spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind towards the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries become perfect. I could even relate the Guru Sadhu Shastra, how they help us in removing the clutches of Maya of this material world. They help us really a lot. Even from Nectar of Devotion, we got to know that Rupa Goswami mentions the basic principles how to discharge devotional service are as follows. The first one is as accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. And the number two is becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. And number three is obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. Number four, following in the footsteps of great acharyas under the direction of the spiritual master. Number five, inquiring from spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. These are the basic principles Rupa Goswami gave us to execute the devotional service. And due to Maharaj Parikshit's influence, Deva Yatrakshi Gocharaha. Even common people could see demigods during the sacrifices. So I'm discussing from topmost. In this purport, Srila Prabhupada says that demigods are not generally visible to common men, as the Lord is not visible, but as the Lord by his causeless mercy descends to be visible to the common man, similarly, the demigods also become visible to the common man by their own grace. All the celestial beings are not visible to the naked eyes of the inhabitants of this earth. It was due to the influence of Maharaj Parikshit that the demigods also agreed to be visible. In his wonderful lecture on the above verse, Srila Prabhupada makes it clear, crystal clear, that to get the darshan of pure devotees, demigods, and Supreme Lord is not a cheap thing, and that the place and person should be qualified for the same. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto and 6th chapter, there is a narration of how Narada Muni, in his previous life as son of maid servant, was able to get a glimpse of Krishna for a very short period. And later Krishna disappeared from his vision. Although he kept trying multiple times, after that he could not have darshan of the Lord. In his wonderful purport, like Prabhupada explained 1.6.19, he says that there is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It depends completely on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises out of his own accord. Also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. One should simply await the opportunity moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service of the Lord. In the mundane world, if we compare, if you want to see the president or a prime minister of a country, it's not an easy process. In his wonderful lecture, Srila Prabhupada again quotes that how even to see some important people in this material world, we need some qualification. At the present moment, we want to see God, but we do not acknowledge that we are not qualified. How can we see? If I cannot see even an ordinary president, why my whims? I want to see the president of or such a big officer. Srila Prabhupada further explains that you cannot see unless you are qualified. So how can you see God? That is impossible. That is not possible. So you have to qualify yourself. Then you will see the God. Prabhupada makes really, really strong statements like you have to qualify yourself. Even Prabhupada says that like we are not qualified to see the Lord, but we can see God through taste of water, light of the sun and moon, as assured by Krishna, Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.8. Rasoham mapsu kaunteya prabhasmi sasi suryaho suryaha. The example, like nice food stuff, he talks about the sweetness. By tasting it, the prasadam, we can observe the essence, the presence of Lord Krishna. So by engaging our tongue, sevan mukhehi jihvado swayam eva spruhartada. One in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.234, he says that we can realize God will reveal to us when we engage our senses. The first thing is the tongue. The tongue or jiva should be engaged in chanting Krishna's names and tasting Krishna Prasadam and speaking about Krishna. His divine grace even explains, when you become submitted, devoted to the God, tasting the Prasadam, by tasting the Prasadam, you will see the God personally. He will talk with you. This is possible. In this regard, I want to explain one story, like how Lord, how he appeared before devotees. So one is the pastime of Saint Namadeva, who is in his childhood was brought up by his parents, who were very nice devotees of the Lord Vittala. Every day they used to offer bhoga to the Lord and then honor it along with the Namadeva. Once when his father was out of town, his mother requested him to offer bhoga, and when Namadeva offered it, with innocence of a child, he waited for the plate to become empty. But when he did not, he started to cry and plead to Lord Vittala to accept the offering. Moved by his innocent love, Lord Vittala allowed Namadeva to feed him and emptied the whole plate as desired by Namadeva. When Namadeva returned with an empty plate, his mother began to wonder whether he ate all the prasadam himself and questioned him. Hearing his response that Lord Vittala had eaten, she was surprised and she informed her husband when he returned. The next day, when parents asked him to show how he was offering, Namdev agreed to accompany by them to the temple. Then he began to offer. Lord Vittala did not open his mouth. And so Namdev began to cry that if Vittala did not eat like the previous day, then his parents may think that he's a liar. In order not to displease his dear devotee, Lord Vittala now mercifully gave darshan for the whole family and again ate the bhoga. Just like how a child allows a mother to feed him. Like seeing this, Namadev's parents were filled with joy. So when we submissively engage in Krishna service with love and faith, as per the instruction of Guru and Krishna, by their mercy, we can experience the Lord's loving reciprocation. And the last thing I want to discuss is about the sacrifice. In Ishopanishad, the 17th verse, the meaning of sacrifice is quoted as deny the interest of the senses. And factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord, Lord Vishnu, who is known as Yajna Purusha. The purpose of sacrifice is done for the well-being of the subjects. Kings perform sacrifices to let the kingdom flourish. All these who perform and knowing the meaning behind the yajnas become cleansed of sinful reactions and having tasted the nectar of the results of the sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. Even it is described in Bhagavad Gita 4.33, purpose of sacrifices to arrive at the status of complete knowledge and then gain release from material miseries and ultimately to engage in loving transcendental service to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So, how to perform the sacrifice in the present age? In the present age, however, the ritualistic sacrifices recommended in the Vedas are not possible to execute. They're very expensive, and you have to acquire so much ghee and grains along with so many other things. Daily, you need to feed so many people. This is all very difficult in this age. So therefore, Krishna has made yajna very easy. As he recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32, Krishna Varnam Trisha Krishnam Sangopangastra Prasadam Yajnai Sankirtanai Prayar Yajananti Sri Hi Sumedasaha. So what is yajna for the present age? Sankirtana, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. This process was taught by the incarnation of the God for the present age of Kali. Now one may ask, who is the incarnation of God for the present age? The Bhagavatam says, Krishna Varnam. The word Varna means category. So Krishna Varna means the incarnation of the present age is in the category of Krishna, not in the category of Jiva or soul. In other words, he is Krishna himself. Krishna Varnam also means one who describes Krishna. So the incarnation who teaches Sankirtana is always describing Krishna or chanting the holy name of Krishna, and he is Krishna because he belongs to the category of Krishna. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always describing Lord Krishna and chanting his holy names. And he is in the same category as Krishna. Therefore, it is to be understood that he is the incarnation for the present age. So even Sangopangastra Parsadam, he always surrounded by his associates and expansions. Anga means immediate expansion. Upanga means an expansion of the expansion, which is also known as Kala. The first expansion is an avatara, and when there is another avatara for the first avatara, he is called as Kala. Lord Chaitanya appeared with his immediate expansion, not Nityananda Prabhu, and the expansion of the expansion, Advaita Mahaprabhu, and also with Sri Vasa Thakura, Gadadhara Pandita, and many other devotees, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has all the symptoms of the incarnation of the present age. So I will conclude the session by praying to the Lord, Guru, and all devotees. When we submissively engage in Krishna service with love and devotion as per the instructions of Guru and Krishna, then by their mercy we can experience Lord's loving reciprocation. If there are any realizations or recommendations, can you please tell me?
Hare Krishna Mata, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Guru Maharaj and Srila.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru and Gauranga. Yes, Prabhuji. Recommendation.
Wonderful talk. You touched a lot of topics and quoted from Shastras, and it was very clear. So nice. Thank you, Mataji. We should hear more from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So, if there are no comments or suggestions, I want to conclude today's session. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna.